G'day folks, I've done a number of videos in the past on making these oil caps, but in this video I'm looking at trying to get this mess of polishing compound out of the threads. Just a quick recap on all the processes. I've sped it all up so it only takes about 2 minutes to get through. Here I'm machining 6061 alloy, which is really quite difficult to machine with a small machine. Here you can see I've got the chips going reasonably well, but a bit later it does make a mess. Here we're cutting the thread. This is 52 OD. I think it's actually 52.1 OD by 16 with a 60-degree thread angle. If anybody's got any idea what thread that may have been originally, do let me know in the comments, because I've got no idea. So that was 6061, and here's a couple of passes of 2011 being thread cut. Completely different type of chip formation. And just to prove that this is 6061, we finish with a little bird's nest. Moving right along, we bore out the underneath of the cap. Here I use a slot drill to drill, and then just open up the bore enough for the boring bar. Then we reverse the spindle for the boring bar. Boring bar is using a Sumitomo FC insert, and this is alloy 2011. Now we're machining the dome. It's interesting, towards the end as you watch this, you'll see a pass where the OD is much shinier, much better finish than the ID, because the surface speed was higher. I'm sorry, but this is a historical clip here because I no longer have a CNC mill. I actually had to send this job out to someone else to put those serrations in for me. This is sped up, I think, 16 times. The mill I had was very slow. I tried my little ultrasonic machine, but to be honest it left more rubbish in than it removed. Did remove some, but not enough. Here I'm putting some WD-40 on it while holding it in the chuck to see if that will help loosen it up. Really not sure it did much, but then later I use it again, so it must have achieved something. I have to admit I'm really not enjoying doing this very much. I've had these plastic handles on these little brushes snap on me before, and I really didn't like the idea of one snapping and my fingers falling into the chuck jaws as they're whizzing round. That's actually sped up there, just to move the video along, but it was still fast enough that I didn't want to be hitting my hands on the chuck jaws. I ended up using a tissue and sticking my thumbnail in the V and going round and round, but that was about the only way I could really finish it off nicely. So, being a bit worried about my fingers, I drew up and 3D printed this contraption. Even using a magnifying glass on the screen of my phone, I couldn't get focus. Putting that rule in there was the only way that I could actually get something to focus on. The rest of it, the white and the silver, was just impossible. There you see the first iteration of the finger guard. That's it in place. And this is another cap. Cleaning it up again. There's got to be a better way, surely. And as you can see here, it's still a little bit grubby in there. When I was talking to old foundryman about this problem, we discussed the possibility of using a string or something like that in the V groove to see if it would clean them out. So here I'm using a piece of reasonably strong knitting wool, which doesn't do a bad job, but I still got to get the hang of how to use it properly. Also didn't like the way those chuck jaws were whizzing around if I actually happened to put my fingers in the wrong place. They don't show up that well in the photo, but there's still some grubby marks on the bottom threads there. When there was just a bit of rubbish to clean up, I found putting some tissue on the thread and then poking my thumbnail into it and moving it around by hand was a reasonably decent way of getting the rubbish out. Here I've added some more material to the finger protection device that I made, and I've got it completely covering up the chuck jaws, so there's nothing for my fingers to fall into. This brass brush I'm using came in a set of 3, and one of the others is actually steel bristles, so I might give that a try. So you see, this brass one really takes a bit of effort. I put some WD-40 on there, hoping it would help dissolve the compound that's in the threads. Now I'm back with my string theory again to see if it works. And I must admit, it worked reasonably well. I need a bit longer string and clean bits of it all the time and things like that. Maybe that'll work. Once the WD-40 got a bit drippy, I sort of thought, well, 3000 RPM might fling it off, but didn't do much. I tried my finger in the gap and I thought maybe a piece of cloth would go in there. And it does reasonably well. You can see there's not that much left on the rag. This is the oil cap for a BSA Empire Star oil tank. I've made 3 altogether. That one for the Empire Star, this one is for a BSA C10, and this one here is for a J12 BSA or a Y13. They were a V twin. And here's 4 of the ones that I've done during the making of this video. If you want to buy one of these, they're all on eBay Australia, or you can contact me direct, and I'll leave a note in the description as to when they're all sold. This has been a long video for me, so if you're still here, thank you for watching.